Silence blanketed the land, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of death. Broken towers and rusted iron skeletons pierced the fog, their shadows stretching across the barren mud. The air carried the scent of rain mixed with the rot of old blood, a stench that clung to the lungs and reminded every intruder that this land had not forgiven the living. Once, this ground had been the heart of a proud empire. Now it was nothing but ash, bones, and whispers of the past. Cirrus, an elven warrior, trudged forward, her heavy boots sinking deep into the mire. Her armor bore the scars of countless battles, scratched, rusted, and caked in mud. The bow on her back had long since snapped, its string useless, and her quiver rattled with only a handful of arrows left. The only true weapon she had left was her sword, dulled with age, yet still gleaming faintly under the pale, dying light. Each step felt heavier, not from fatigue alone, but from the weight of memory. She knew what lurked in these ruins. Packs of wolves and cursed hunting dogs prowled these lands, creatures that no longer fed for hunger, but for hate. Their glowing eyes were said to pierce through even the bravest of hearts. She lifted her gaze skyward. The heavens were shrouded in a veil of smog and storm, as though the sun had abandoned this land forever. Dim, yellow light filtered through the broken clouds, painting the ruins in twisted shapes, like watchful spirits carved into the mist. Her chest tightened, but not with fear, with grief. Her clan, her family, her people had all fallen here. She was the last of them, a lone spark in an endless night, and her journey was no longer about survival. It was about vengeance. Suddenly, she froze. The wind shifted. A faint rustling brushed against her ear, too deliberate to be the breeze. Her fingers clenched around the hilt of her sword. Her sharp eyes darted left and right, yet nothing moved. Still, the sensation of unseen eyes lingered on her skin. "Come out," she hissed under her breath. "If death is what you want, then take it here." Her words cut through the silence like a blade, and the wasteland answered. A low growl echoed in the fog, then another, and another. Shadows stirred, and pairs of red eyes ignited in the darkness. A pack of dogs emerged from the ruins, filthy scarred, their fur matted with blood and mud. Their fangs glistened as they bared their teeth, growling deep and guttural. Step by step, they tightened their circle around her, hunger and hatred dripping from every snarl. Cirrus drew her blade. Her breath came fast. Her pulse thundered. The mud pulled at her legs, sucking her down, but she stood unyielding. She knew this was only the beginning. The first beast lunged. Her sword flashed, slicing through its jaw. Blood sprayed across the mud as the animal collapsed with a guttural cry. The rest of the pack howled with madness, their frenzy doubling as they closed in on her. This was no simple fight. This was war, against beasts, against fate, against the very memory of her fallen kin. Her body was already weary, her muscles burning, but her spirit roared like fire. She screamed, not in fear but in defiance, a cry that tore through the storm. And then, amidst the chaos, it came. A voice. It slithered through the wind, cold and alien, whispering in a tongue older than the ruins themselves. "Do you crave power? All it asks is a price." Cirrus stiffened, her blood running cold. The dogs still circled, their eyes gleaming, but something greater had awakened. The battlefield was no longer outside, it was inside her soul. The growls thickened, rumbling like thunder rolling low across the wasteland. The pack had tasted the blood of one of their own, and now they were ravenous. Red eyes burned through the fog, shifting closer, their bodies sliding like shadows over the broken stones and mud. Cirrus held her sword tight, her knuckles white around the hilt, her breath sharp and ragged. The first attack came, without warning. Two hounds lunged from opposite sides, their jaws snapping for her throat. Cirrus pivoted, ducking beneath one and driving her blade upward into the chest of the other. Hot blood splashed across her face as the beast fell limp. Before she could recover, claws raked across her arm. She hissed, stumbling, but forced her body to twist, cutting another attacker across the flank. The pack didn't falter. For every beast that fell, two more came snarling, their forms half flesh, half shadow. Their eyes glowed as if cursed fire burned within them. These were not mere animals. They were remnants of an old spell, bound to guard this wasteland for eternity. Cirrus staggered backward, her boots sinking deeper into the mire. Her body screamed in protest. Wounds burned across her arms and legs. She could feel her energy fading with every swing, every block. Yet her spirit refused to bend. "Is that all?" she spat, raising her sword at the encroaching horde. The words tore from her throat more like a vow than a question. The hounds roared as one and charged. Steel met flesh. Mud churned beneath her boots, and the air filled with snarls, screams, and the metallic scent of blood. Cirrus moved like a storm, her blade dancing, her kicks crushing, her elbows breaking bones. But exhaustion stalked her like a shadow. Every second stretched longer, every breath heavier. Her strikes slowed, and the pack began to sense it. One beast slammed into her side, knocking her hard into the ground. The impact rattled her bones, driving the air from her lungs. Mud splashed across her face as sharp fangs snapped inches from her throat. She grunted, forcing her blade upward into the hound's gut. It wailed, black ichor spilling from its body, but its weight pinned her down. More shadows closed in. Their growls vibrated in her skull. She shoved the corpse aside and staggered back to her knees, her blade trembling in her grasp. Blood dripped from fresh wounds along her shoulders and thigh. Her vision blurred for a heartbeat, the world tilting in a haze of pain and fatigue. Then, again, the whisper returned. "You cannot win, not as you are." Her head snapped up, eyes wild. The voice was not outside. It coiled within her mind, curling cold around her thoughts. "Take my hand. Let me lend you strength. They will bow before you." Cirrus clenched her jaw, slashing another beast across the snout. She did not answer. She would not. But the whisper persisted. "Without me, you will fall. Without me, your people's deaths will mean nothing." Her heart pounded. The mud beneath her feet seemed to pull her lower, dragging her into the earth itself. She could hear her own pulse louder than the snarls of the hounds. Another beast lunged. This time she was too slow. It slammed her backward into the ruins of a wall, its jaws snapping toward her neck. She screamed, forcing the blade between its teeth. Her arms trembled under the pressure as saliva dripped across her chest. "Damn you all!" she roared, forcing the weapon forward. But her strength was failing. And then it happened. Her scream twisted, not of pain but of rage, echoing like thunder across the ruins. The hounds hesitated, their snarls faltering for a single precious heartbeat. In that instant, the whisper swelled, filling her chest with an alien heat. "Say the word, and they will kneel." Her blade quivered, her body broken, her mind cornered. The hunt was no longer just theirs. It was hers. Her arms trembled as the beast's fangs pressed closer, the edge of her sword the only thing keeping death at bay. Mud filled her mouth as she gasped for breath, her muscles screaming, her wounds burning. The pack circled like vultures, waiting for her strength to fail. Cirrus could feel her body giving out. Her vision darkened at the edges, her grip slipping. And then the whisper cut through the chaos again, clearer this time, deeper, colder. "You cannot defeat them alone, but you don't have to." Her heart pounded, thundering louder than the growls around her. The voice was not just in her mind now. It resonated in her bones, echoing in her very blood. "Take my hand, warrior. Accept my gift. I will give you strength enough to crush them all." "Who are you?" Cirrus snarled through gritted teeth, forcing the hound back an inch. "Show yourself." The laughter that followed was hollow, ancient, vibrating through the ruins as though the stones themselves remembered it. "Names mean nothing to the dead. All that matters is power. Do you want it, Cirrus of the fallen clan? Do you want vengeance?" The question struck like a dagger. Vengeance. The word burned in her heart. She saw her clan's faces, her brothers, her sisters, her mother, torn apart by beasts like these, swallowed by fire and blood. She had sworn to avenge them, but her strength had been fading since the day she was left alone. Could she deny what was being offered? Another hound lunged, snapping at her leg. Its teeth sank into her armor, dragging her sideways into the mud. Pain exploded through her thigh. She cried out, slashing desperately, severing its muzzle, but the wound throbbed violently. Blood ran freely now, mixing with the sludge beneath her. The whisper grew louder, urgent. "You bleed. You fall. You will die here, forgotten. Or—" The voice softened, almost soothing, like a serpent curling around her throat. "You will rise. You will command. The beasts that tear at your flesh will kneel at your feet. You will be more than a warrior. You will be queen of Fong and Shadow." Her sword slipped, clattering into the mud as she fell onto her knees. The pack howled, sensing the end. They closed in, teeth glinting. Cirrus slammed her fist into the ground. "Damn you!" she roared, though whether at the hounds or the voice, she did not know. Her chest heaved, her heart a storm. The voice answered, velvet and venom. "Say yes. Say the word, and I will bind myself to you. In blood, in shadow, in eternity." Her mind fractured under the weight of choice. She had lived her life by honor, fighting with steel and skill. To accept such a pact was to abandon everything she once believed in. Yet honor would not save her people. Honor would not destroy these cursed lands. She looked up. The beasts were almost upon her, drool dripping from their fangs, their snarls deafening. One leap, and she would be torn apart. Her lips trembled. The word clawed its way out. Yes. The world stopped. The storm above cracked with thunder. The earth beneath her feet pulsed, with black veins of light, writhing like serpents across the mud. The hounds froze, their eyes wide, their growls stifled as if choked by unseen hands. Cirrus gasped as a searing pain ripped through her chest. Dark tendrils coiled around her arms, her legs, seeping into her flesh, binding themselves to her bones. Her vision flared white, then black, then red. She screamed, not of fear, but of transformation. The cry shook the ruins, echoing like the birth of something terrible. The voice spoke one final time, triumphant and intimate. "The pact is sealed. Rise, Cirrus. Rise, my beast queen." Her eyes snapped open, glowing like embers. The pack whimpered and lowered their heads. The blood pact had begun. The ruins trembled. Black veins of light pulsed through the cracked earth, crawling outward like roots from where Cirrus knelt. Her scream still echoed in the air, but it no longer sounded like her. It was layered, fractured, as if 1,000 voices screamed with her. The hounds, once bloodthirsty and relentless, whimpered. Their red eyes dimmed to a dull glow as they crept backward, ears pinned flat. Some collapsed into the mud, trembling. Their snarls turned to whines. For the first time, they were afraid. Cirrus rose slowly, her body shaking, steam rising from her armor as if her flesh itself burned with power. Mud dripped from her gauntlets as she clenched her sword once more, but the steel looked different now. Black fire licked along its edge, feeding from her grip. warping the weapon into something more monstrous. She looked down at her hands. The skin along her arms had darkened with streaks of shadow that moved beneath the surface, like living ink. Her veins glowed faintly, not with light, but with an eerie crimson pulse, as though her blood itself had been rewritten. The whisper spoke again, but this time it was no longer inside her head. It resonated around her, through the air, as though the wasteland itself was her voice. "You are mine and I am yours. Now command them." Cirrus lifted her gaze to the pack. The beasts that once sought to tear her apart now crawled before her, pressing their muzzles into the mud. One whined like a pup, another rolled onto its back, exposing its throat. Their submission was absolute. Her chest heaved, torn between triumph and horror. The power she felt was intoxicating. Her wounds no longer burned, her exhaustion replaced by a storm of strength. Every breath surged with an energy beyond mortal limits. She felt unstoppable, untouchable, and yet, deep within, a flicker of fear gnawed at her. "Rise," she commanded, her voice deeper resonant, carrying a weight not her own. The hounds obeyed instantly, forming a semicircle around her. Their eyes no longer glowed red, but black, mirroring the void that had taken root inside her. Cirrus staggered a step forward, gripping her blade. A strange laughter bubbled from her lips, though she hadn't meant to laugh. The sound was chilling alien, as though something inside her rejoiced in ways she did not. She pressed her hand against her chest, trembling. "What have I done?" But the answer came swiftly as another shape emerged from the fog, a beast larger than the others, its frame towering, its fangs long as daggers. Its howl split the air like thunder, shaking the very ruins. The smaller hounds growled in response, their loyalty shifting to Cirrus, awaiting her command. The great beast charged. Cirrus did not falter. She raised her hand, not her sword, and the shadows obeyed. Black tendrils erupted from the ground, coiling around the monster's limbs, dragging it into the mud. It thrashed, snapping, roaring in fury, but it could not break free. The realization struck her like lightning. She wasn't merely wielding power, she was power. She was no longer bound by the limits of flesh. The darkness moved as her will moved. "Submit," she growled. The great beast's roars cracked into a whimper. With a final shudder, it collapsed, bowing its head before her. The wasteland fell into silence once again. Cirrus stood at its center, breathing hard, surrounded not by enemies, but by her new legion. A dozen cursed hounds, their eyes black as void, waited on her word. The storm above quieted, as though the land itself had acknowledged its new mistress. Her reflection flickered in a puddle at her feet. The face staring back was no longer the Cirrus she remembered. Her eyes glowed with infernal fire, her features twisted with shadow. She had become something beyond mortal, something both feared and worshipped. The voice purred within her. "Do you see now? You are not prey. You are not victim. You are the predator. You are queen." For the first time in her life, Cirrus felt the truth of those words, and though a part of her recoiled in horror, another part, stronger, louder, embraced it. The Beast Queen had risen. The ruins lay silent beneath the storm, broken towers leaning like gravestones against a sky of ash. Cirrus stood in their shadow, her sword dripping black fire, her breath steady, her wounds already healed. Around her, the pack bowed in perfect obedience. The cursed hounds that once tore at her flesh now awaited her command, their blackened eyes reflecting her new dominion. She felt it in her veins, raw, endless, consuming. The pact had not simply saved her. It had remade her. She was no longer Cirrus the exile, Cirrus the last of her clan. She was something else, something greater. The whisper inside her no longer sounded foreign. It pulsed with her heartbeat, as though it had always belonged. "The wasteland is yours," the voice cooed, "but this is only the beginning." Cirrus looked across the battlefield, at the shattered bones of her people and the ruins of the empire that had once reigned here. For years she had dreamed of vengeance, of justice for what was stolen from her. Yet standing here, cloaked in shadow and flanked by monsters, she realized her quest had twisted into something darker. Justice was too small, revenge was too narrow, power, unshakable, eternal power, was within her grasp. She raised her hand. The pack howled in unison, the sound echoing across the dead plains, shaking the ruins as if to announce the rise of a new sovereign. Their voices rolled like thunder, and for the first time in centuries, the wasteland answered not with silence, but with allegiance. The larger beast she had conquered crept closer, lowering itself until its muzzle touched the mud at her feet. Cirrus placed her palm on its skull, and the creature shuddered under her touch. The shadows binding it seeped into its skin, burning black markings across its hide. When it lifted its head again, its eyes glowed with the same ember fire that burned in hers. Her army was growing. She took her first steps as something no longer human, no longer elf. With every stride, the ground darkened beneath her boots, mud stiffening into black stone as though the land itself feared her tread. The fog parted as she walked, revealing more shadows moving in the distance. More cursed beasts, more guardians of the wasteland. But they did not attack. They watched. They waited. And then slowly they bowed. One by one, the wild things of the ruins lowered themselves, their snarls replaced by silence. Cirrus's power spread like wildfire, a dominion that could not be resisted. The wasteland, once masterless, now had its queen. She felt the voice purr through her veins. "Do you see how they kneel? The world is broken, Cirrus. Its thrones are empty, its kings long dead. You will rise where they fell, not as their heir, but as their end." The words ignited something inside her. For the first time in her life, Cirrus did not feel small or hunted or powerless. She felt infinite. She felt inevitable. Yet deep within, a flicker of unease stirred. She had sworn to honor her clan, to carry their memory into eternity. Would they recognize her now? Would they see their daughter, their sister, their protector? Or would they see only a monster born from shadow? The thought lingered, but it did not stop her. Perhaps it no longer mattered, for the world would remember her, if not as savior, then as sovereign, not as Cirrus the Broken, but as Cirrus the Beast Queen. The hounds howled once more, louder than before, their cries spilling into the night like an oath. Lightning split the sky, illuminating her figure against the ruins, a lone warrior reborn as an empress of fear. And as her laughter joined the storm, it was clear the age of men, of elves, of old kingdoms was over. A new reign had begun, a reign of shadow, of beasts, of blood, the reign of the Beast Queen.